Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collingwood for YouTube, Resident underslash of underslash Collingwood for BitChute, and I'm here to give my thoughts, opinions, and predictions for the flashback scenes we'll be getting for Halloween Kills. You know, this is this is something sort of I wanted for Halloween 2018. Well, I'm not me and a friend of mine, fellow YouTuber Daniel Culver Killenberg, we were discussing this, I believe, in our Laurie Strode retrospective video we did together. I believe that was the video we did. One of them. I'm sure. I know we mentioned it in a video we did together, and I believe that was the one. And we were talking about this because, again, in Halloween 2018, they had introduced a character named Hawkins, played by actor Will Patton. And Hawkins says that he was there 40 years ago, that he was a first responder. He helped not only apprehend Michael Myers, but he stopped Dr. Loomis from killing Michael Myers. And the guilt of that, of stopping Loomis, sort of aided him. He felt guilty for doing it. He thought he did a disservice. All those years later, it thought in his mind. Now, did I believe Hawkins? This was sort of my biggest issue with 2018. Anytime you time jump, and you always know with a story you're going to introduce new characters. Any story you write, you're going to introduce characters you've never heard of. The sequels do this too. And 2018's 2018 is full of new characters. You have Allison, you have Allison's mom, Karen. You have Will Patton's character, Hawkins. You have Dr. Sartain. And you have Allison's friends. So, you have all these new characters, and what all these new characters are, they're pieces. And now, whether those pieces are going to stick around is purely up to the writers and producers. So, going into 2018, when I heard Will Patton was cast, I said to everybody that will listen, Will Patton is going to be the one character, the one person who he's going to play his character. You're going to love his character, because that's just the actor Will Patton is, because whether he's playing a protagonist or an antagonist, you just love the characters and how he brings them to life and what he does with them. And guess what? Everybody loved his character pretty much. I don't think I've heard anybody bitch about his character. And I'm not sitting here trying to bitch about his character. I just feel the producers and writers really hung him out to dry and not flashing back right then and there when he's telling that story. For the simple fact is, again, he's a new character. Number two, not every character is believable the way Donald Pleasance as Sam Loomis was. When Donald Pleasance as Sam Loomis spoke, you listened and you believed him. Donald Pleasance as Sam Loomis could tell you the fucking sky was falling or the moon was going to crash into the earth, and you would have believed him. You wouldn't have even checked for the facts. You would have believed him. But I do think that not everybody brings that type of level to a character to where just words believe them. And that's not Will Patton's fault. That's just, I think they thought they could get away with that. And to me, I don't think they did. I know I didn't really, again, I would have believed it more if they had shown it. Because, again, you're talking about a guy, and Michael Myers, who is taken a needle to the neck, stabbed to the chest, 6 shots, and got up and walked away, and you're telling me he was just apprehended. Show me that. Show me that. Again, we're talking about somebody who has withstanded all that, and to get up and walk away, and then he's apprehended at some point. Show me how that's done. Now, that's sort of the one thing I'm hoping most for with these flashbacks. Is that the only thing I think they're going to show? No. And the other, because again, you have Tommy Doyle coming back in this movie, you have Lindsay Wallace coming back in this movie, you have Lonnie Lamb coming back in this movie, and you have Sheriff Lee Brackett coming back in this movie. Now, me and Daniel, shout out to him. I'm going to leave a link in the description box to his channel. We had talked about this, that we felt they should have brought Brackett back for 2018. And guess what? They're bringing him back for 2020. Now, my biggest concern with these flashbacks is, with all those characters, are we going to get everybody's retrospective of 1978? Because to me, you don't need it. You don't need Tommy Doyle or Lindsay Wallace's. Now, do I think they'll give them theirs? Yeah, and my hope is it's the same account, because the account should be, well, Laurie Strode told us to run down the street to, I forget the name of the house she said, but run down the street and tell them to call the police. Because remember, she doesn't say run across the street, because remember, Laurie Strode herself, when she was coming back from the Wallaces, she didn't cross the street right back over. She went to the neighboring house to beat on the goddamn door and said, help me, help me. But they didn't believe her because they thought it was a Halloween prank. And so she tells them to run down the street, and that's sort of where you see Loomis again. He's coming up the street, and he sees them running out of the house screaming. And that's sort of what's going to be interesting, too. I gotta believe the phone call, again, was made sometime right after the gunshots. That the lines were busy when you hear gunshots going off, right? In a small town, quiet town. I gotta believe the phone call from Tommy and them, that the neighbors came right after Loomis shot Myers. Because they couldn't have came anytime sooner, because they had just left that house. I mean, they were running, sure, but come on now. Be a little realistic, right? And to me, the one thing I'll say is, am I curious about anything with Tommy and Lindsay? I guess the one thing I would only be curious about was, did the neighbors believe them? Did the people they went to believe them? And when they called 911, did 911 believe them? Because remember, this is on Halloween night in 1978. Those times were a lot different than what you have now. That's the one thing I'll say. 1978 is not 2020. If you call someone now in 2020 and you say something like that, cops are coming knocking on your door. In 1978, maybe not so much, because, well, again, times were different. So they might not have believed the people right away. I guess that's the one thing I would want to hear, but again, how long would that really last? Again, it's not overly important. So we'll see if they show that or not. I don't really care if they do. But if you guys do, let me know. Again, I'm more wanting to hear Lee Brackett's, this from Lee Brackett's standpoint, because that's the person who's going to interact with not only Loomis, Myers, but Hawkins. That's the person I'm most interested in hearing the 1978 narrative from, because remember, when Brackett pulls up into his squad car and Loomis is walking up the street, Loomis tells him, I found him. I found the car. It's 3 blocks down. You go around the back of the houses. I'll watch the front. So, and we see Brackett drive off. So, I really think that's what's going to be interesting is, because we know Brackett's patrolling the area. Where exactly was he when this call came in? I wonder if they're going to show that or not. I'd be curious enough to see where he was. again, he's the one I'm most interested in his story, because he's the one we're going to hear his perspective. Loomis, we're going to hear Loomis from him. You got to believe. Um, at least I would think so. Do I really care about Lonnie Lamb's? No, I don't give two shits about Lonnie Lamb's 1978 experience. I don't. I'm sorry. I think you have to be really careful with that. With this, you do not want to convolute 1978 with all the past. You don't want to convolute it with this person's story, this person's story, this person's story. You just don't. To me, I more just want to hear one person's perspective, and that's the brackets. That's just my opinion. If you feel differently, that's fine. How do I think they're gonna do this? If I had to take an educated guess, I would say that Lee Brackett is going to get there sometime right after Hawkins, and he's going to have Loomis with him, and Loomis is going to go to shoot him. Loomis is going to go to shoot him, and Hawkins grabs the gun from Loomis and wrestles him to the ground, and you would have Brackett have his gun pointed at Myers, and he's looking at them wrestling, looking at Myers. Myers is standing there, and have Myers collapse from all the blood he's lost, because the fact that Myers got up after everything he's been through, think about it, coat hanger to the neck, stabbed to the abdomen, shot 6 times. That son of a bitch got up and walked the hell away. He is one tough son of a bitch. Sorry, catch my breath there. I do think this, I know we're going to get flashbacks, but I think the present and past are going to be very interesting. I think the present for, the present day tense for me is going to, hopefully, I think honestly, this is going to be Allison's movie to win or lose the audience over. That's the one thing with 2018. I really liked Andy Matichek in her character. Do I think they gave you a lot of her, a deep dive? No, they gave you a quick glance. Did Myers stalk her? No, not really. I keep hearing the words of Danny McBride, who was a co-writer, saying that Allison was Michael's new favorite obsession, and that's what we were going to see with 2018, and we just didn't. We didn't see anything close to that. I do think we're going to see a good bit of Allison in 2018. I really do think Andy Matichek, this is going to be the movie where she her movie to win or lose the audience over with her character Allison. And I damn sure think she's going to win the audience over with her character. I think the one thing I loved about her character that I have not heard too many people mention, and I think I've mentioned this before, I love her facial expression and the emotion of when she talks to her mom and her grandma. You can tell she is squarely in the middle of all this shit. That's where Andy Matichek made me feel sorry for her character. Not necessarily around Michael Myers. Because again, this is prior to her being in the back of a car with Myers. Back of the police squad, Jeep, whatever you want to call that fucking thing. Bronco, whatever. Early in the movie, she's hearing her mother's side of this after her grandma shows up at the restaurant and starts drinking, and you see what I have to put up with. She gets her mother's point of this, yes, but she also gets her grandmother's point of this, that both sides have great points, and she's just there in the middle of all this shit, and she's been there in the middle of all this shit for her 17, 18 years she's been alive. And that's something Andy Matichek Just like Josh Hartnett sold you on with H2O, Andy Matichek sells you that too with 2018. And that's something I loved from her. That I loved her body language, her eyes, her facial expressions, her voice told you that. And that's something I loved from her. So she pulled that off nicely and easily. And that's is that something more I want to see in 2020? I just want to see where they're really going to take her character, and are they honestly going to give her the reins to win and lose the audience over? Because if they do, you have a new starlet in Halloween. Move over, Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm gonna get in trouble for that one you watch, but I do think Andy Matichek can carry this franchise again if they give her the reins. But we'll see. We'll see if they do that. Did I like Karen? I like what they did with Karen. They give her a bit of a backstory. They give her that quick flashback. But again, it sort of makes me mad that they don't do it for Hawkins. Again, the one thing Hawkins, Sartain, Allison, and Karen all have in common is that they're all four new characters. I'm not getting into the relation part of it. We know that. We know Karen and Allison are related. But they're all four new characters. By the way, another thing 2018 sort of gets wrong is Dr. Sartain says many doctors examined Michael, and then along came Loomis. Well, in John Carpenter's original Halloween, what does Dr. Loomis say? I spent 15 years with him. 15 years from 1978 is 1963. So when Michael was incarcerated in Smith's Grove, when he was put there in that mental hospital, Loomis was his doctor from the start up until 1978. Is Sartain lying to you? Again, this is something I sort of touched on with my Dark Shadows video. Not all antagonists lie. I believe Sartain himself was lied to by the administration of Smith's Grove. And what I picked that up from is the brief interaction of Dr. Wynn and Dr. Loomis in John Carpenter's original Halloween. When they're walking out, you can sense that, he's even his own friends annoyed with him, and you can sense that they just have not been listening to this guy, and Pleasance again sells you on that with his expressions. So, and I think that's just something Smith's Grove just really did not tolerate Loomis and did not listen to him. And I think that message comes across very clear in John's original. So, I don't think Sartain's lying to you because, again, often enough times what you don't hear is characters getting lied to. So, that's what I take away from that. Again, that's just my opinion. You can take it however you want. I definitely want to get you guys' thoughts on this. Please let me hear from you. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about. I don't believe so. Again, I do think, like I said, I think this is going to be Allison's movie to win or lose the audience over. I've given you the flashback thing. Again, I just hope they don't convolute this with a ton of flashbacks and just we're getting a bunch of stories that we don't need to have, because the only one I'm interested in is Lee Brackett's. That's the only one I really give a shit about. Honestly, with the flashback sequence, that's it. Because that's where you're going, to me, you would think that's where you would see Loomis. So, link's going to be in the description box for Daniel Culver, Killenberg's channel. He's at Killenberg on Twitter, Daniel Culver on Facebook. Check him out. Shout out to you, my friend. And I'll see you guys next time. You guys have a good night.